Alright, we're going to be installing this radiator today. Area we'll be working in. We'll go over tools after we're done, what I've used. First thing we're going to want to start with is removing your clamps for your overflow container. So we'll get started with that. We do already have a bucket down here ready to catch anything. Start off on the right side, the driver's side. We're just getting in place to remove this clamp. I'm just going to slide it right down the hose. Leave that there. We are going to end up removing this upper radiator hose just to get it out of the way. But first we will start with the overflow container. Alright, so we have the clamps removed off of this lower hose right here. Now it's a little hard to see coming right off the coolant reservoir. We're going to remove it here. Remove these three 10mm bolts. Back one towards the motor is on a bar. Connects to the radiator support. So now that that is off, we can pop this hose and lose some coolant here. Again, we are on the upside down here. This lower radiator hose coming off the coolant bottle. And we got most of it in a bucket. This hose coming off the radiator now. And we do have a low coolant sensor right here. It's a little hard to see. All you do is squeeze both sides, pull it off. And we can remove our overflow container. Set that off to the side. Good to have some rags. Now this coolant is relatively new, so we're going to try to save as much as we can. Give that a minute to drain. I said I was going to do the upper radiator hose, but I think right down here, I'm going to go for this one first. So, a little hard to see. Down here where my finger is, we again have those squeeze clamps. I'm going to pull that and just run it right up the radiator hose. Put it down there so you can see it. Go for a ride upside down again. So, right here. We're on the lower radiator hose. We're just going to squeeze this clamp, pop it up the hose, and then try to pop this hose off. Let's see if I can't set you guys down here to watch it. Shut you off. Alright. So we got the lower radiator hose off. You guys just watched that. I'm going to go ahead and slide my bucket over to this side. I want this upper radiator hose just out of my way. Actually, on second thought, the lower hose is already off, so the radiator should be empty. Let's find out. This side. Down the hose. This side is stuck. Try to break it loose here. Movement, that should be enough. And all over my coils. Don't do that. Set this off to the side. Now, I'm going to go ahead and remove this upper shroud here. For that, you're going to want a screwdriver, and it helps to have these little body clips. Often, these will not come up. We're getting lucky here. Trying to keep all my parts in the same spot so we don't lose them. And here we have a screw nut coming up. You can apply some pressure under here, which may help. Yep. Just so you see what I'm doing, we have 4 of these. You should be able to just unscrew these. These should come up. But if they don't, just apply some pressure underneath. These will pop up, and then this is what you end up with. And we have a severed one that does not want to pop. In which case these are just push pins, so you can get right up underneath there. And still no. So this one will not unscrew. We're just going to get our little tool under here and work it out. This one we will not be able to reuse. If you break it, it's not a problem. Fortunately, we did not, so we might be able to reuse this anyway. So those are out. Don't set your tools on your battery. Pop that off. Set that off to the side. And now we just have these two for your upper radiator brackets. But before we remove that, we're going to go ahead and get our wiring out of the way. These are again just typically clipped in. See these little plastic clips? Should have 3 of them. One on the radiator itself, or down here, fan housing, fan housing, fan housing. This here just has a push pin, which unfortunately looks like this one's already broken. So we can just pull that out of the way. I'm going to come over here with again our plastic tool. And just pop these out. Now I can just kind of tuck the wiring and put that out of the way for the moment. We'll come back here and we'll remove these two. Should be 10 millimeters. They are not 10, those are 8. those bolts are out, pop off your upper radiator brackets. Make sure you hold on to these rubber bushings. Sometimes they will slide out. Now this one is a manual, so I do not have any transmission lines to worry about. I'm just going to go ahead and pop the radiator up. Tilt it to the driver's side, and you should be able to just pull it. I am going to set it here for just a moment and drain out any coolant I have left in it. And you're done with it. So you can see we've got the new 3-row aluminum radiator from American Muscle right here. In just a moment, I'm going to install this one. Alright, moving on to install. Now when you do remove your radiator, down here you have rubber bushings that again you're going to want to make sure stay in place. Bottom of the new radiator is going to have 2 pins that will slide into that. Make sure you have your radiator orientated correctly. We've got our lower radiator hose, coolant bottle intake, our upper radiator hose, and these do come equipped with a peacock drain over here on the passenger side. So we're going to want to make sure that is tight and closed before we start adding any radiator fluid. Now let's come on down here. And hopefully you want to watch here. Again, one on this side, one on the driver's side. Grab our radiator, slide it right down on in. And get those holes lined up just like that. So now we have our new radiator slid down on the lower radiator support. Down here you can see our lower radiator hose lines up. This one's for our coolant bottle, overflow bottle. This one's for our coolant overflow bottle. I'm going to just move the fan wires out of the way. We've got our coolant intake and our upper radiator hose. So we're going to start with our brackets. Now your brackets do index into the upper mount. So you've got the tab here, and your bolt hole tab will line into a hole, and then you've got your bolt hole there. It's going to pull our radiator back. Driver's side was in the way. Slide that on top, pull our radiator back. Maybe a tight fit, but we are putting in a much larger radiator, so again, let's slide that onto the upper radiator mount, pull that back so it indexes there, and we can put our bolts in. Make sure we hand start them. So we're not stripping anything out. And again, these were 8mm. So now our upper mounts are on, nice and tight. The radiator is secure, not going anywhere. Let us work on this lower radiator hose. our radiator hose on. My battery is about to die, so let us swap that out real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, so we've got our upper mounts on, fresh battery in the camera. We're still keeping our fan wires just kind of tucked out of the way for the moment. I do have a plan for that. American Muscle actually sells the kit you need for high and low fan speed and control, but I'm going to go a different route. So we will not cover that part today because I did not get the BBK or the American Muscle kit for fan speed controller. Now that we've got our mounts on, we can come back up and put our shroud back on since we no longer need to move it. Clean up any residue. Now these are just push pins, so just stick them in there, push them down. You do not need to screw them back down. We'll make sure all our holes are lined up. It does help if the screw is up though. Here, I'm just going to squeeze it and unscrew the screw. As long as your screw's up, you should be able to just pop that in, push the screw down. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Our shroud is back in place. Go ahead and reinstall our upper radiator hose. Actually, I'll put it on this side first because my clamp is already pulled back. And come and grab this clamp. Slide that clamp back into place, make sure the radiator hose is on, and we grab this clamp. Do the same thing. One does not want to move. There we go. Upper radiator hose back on. Now we can come back. to our coolant bottle. So you can, of course, reuse your original one. I am not. I did get the American Muscle aluminum overflow container. So I am going to be using this one. There is a downfall. This does not have your low coolant switch in there. So fortunately your switch does run off a float with a magnet. So if you don't have it, you will not have a light, or you shouldn't have a light. But we will have to find something to do with that wiring. That being said, you have to keep an eye on your coolant levels because you will not have that warning light inside the dash anymore. You will slide this into place. Just there, and there. It does seem to match up pretty well. We'll come back here and slide our hose on. And I will come back, grab that clamp in a minute. Now I want to secure this into place. Throw our nut there, throw our nut there. Now on this side, I'm not sure if that's factory or not. I have a feeling that's not supposed to be open like that, but just slide that in place. It should line up just fine for me. Alright, now that we've got everything started, we'll come back with our 10mm. And just zip everything down. Now that that's secure, I will come down here and grab that clamp. A little hard to see. Right here on this hose, once I slid it up onto the radiator overflow, or the reservoir bottle. Come down here, and I'm going to grab this clamp, slide that back up in position. Is a much tighter fit. The radiator is slightly larger. So I'm just going to spin the clamp into a more easily accessible area. And there. So now we have our clamp slid up into place right here. And then come back to our old overflow container. I'm going to grab this hose, just swap it over. does rotate in a certain position because it's a shaped hose. Alright, here, we're now installing it down here on the radiator itself. Does seem to be a little bit tighter of a fit than factory, so just got to work it in a little bit. But with a little bit of wiggling, a little bit of spinning, a little bit of pressure, it should slide right on. So we got our hose on. Just come over here and grab our clamp. And that is it. Those American Muscles 3-row radiator and their aluminum overflow. So now I'm going to go ahead and run this through a coffee filter because it's still good. Put it in some bottles so it's easier to add here. And we will be back in just a moment. Alright, I came back because I wasn't overly happy with the position of this hose riding right up against my coil and my power steering reservoir. So what I'm going to do is just cut it a little bit short, so probably right on the back side of these clamp marks, to try to bring it a little bit closer, because this reservoir does stick the nipple out farther than the factory would. You can see the factory one comes in way back here behind this bolt. This one comes in front of the bolt. So I don't want this hose riding up against my coil. I don't want the coils vibrating and rubbing a hole through here. So I'm just going to cut this a little short, slide it over, and that should solve our problem. You can see I cut about that much off of the hose. Now, dog does not like horses. That off just a little bit. Now it's not riding against anything, which I'm much happier with. We are going to slide this clamp back over. Alright, so now we cut it short. This is not riding up against the coils. We've got space underneath, and it should be okay there. I may end up rotating this down a little bit just to give us a little bit extra clearance. So there, we're not touching anywhere. I'm happier with that. Eventually I'll probably come over here and overlay some wire sleeve just to prevent any possibility of rubbing against this hose. But that is the install. We got our American Muscle 3-row aluminum radiator. We have American Muscle aluminum overflow bottle. Get that drained out, or filtered out, put in bottles and put in here, and we will be good to go. Alright, let's go ahead and get our coolant added back in. Got a big funnel with the filter at the bottom. Should have no problem taking everything we took out. And of course we're going to need to top it off. Once we get it running and bled out. View off the motor. Good enough, you can see. obviously we're going to have to wait for the thermostat to open up. Still calling on my belt, so now we have a belt sweep. We'll get all that sorted. I'm going to let this warm up, top off the fluid. We'll be back to go over what it took to install this. Alright, well this is running. You can see as it's getting up to temp, we are bleeding out the system. We do, of course, want to keep an eye, make sure we are not overheating at all. This is going to fluctuate quite a bit. We have a lot of air in the system we need to get rid of. Just want to make sure it does reach operating temperature. It seems we have not hit that yet. Sit here and idle. Don't want it to get too hot because again I have not hooked up my fans yet. I have a plan for those, but American Muscle does as well, so make sure you look up their solution. And we're just going to keep walking back and forth until we get up to temp. Make sure we do not overheat it. But as you can see, we're on a 98 Mustang GT. I have no special tools, no lifts. I was able to do all this on the ground. It's a very simple install. Just a little shaded area. We'll go over our tools here. Only thing I needed this for, side cutters for, was for shortening that one hose. We're using channel locks for the hose clamps. Phillips screwdriver for those push pins. I did use a flat-headed screwdriver for help pry the hoses off. And as far as sockets, we have our 8mm and we have our 10mm. So this is basically all it took. I did also use this for pulling the push clips out. We're not quite done yet. I do need to figure out what I want to do with the low coolant temperature, low coolant sensor wire. Probably just end up zip ties this out of the way. And then I've got to resecure all the wiring for my fans, and I have to rewire my fans. So I'll come back once we're up to operating temperature, make sure everything's nice and topped off. I'm not quite there yet. we just had our thermostat open up, sucked down all my coolant, so let's go ahead and top that off real quick. Did pull about 2 gallons out from draining it. Probably going to go through another gallon, so make sure you do have extra coolant when you pull your radiator, because what you have in is not going to be enough to fill this up. Let's go check our temperatures again. You can see we're hanging just around normal. I am going to let it overheat a little bit. Remember, we do not have fans at the moment, because I have not wired in those fans yet. American Muscle does have a kit to wire those fans in. Makes it a little bit easier, but I have a different plan because I want to use the stock ECM and wiring. So if you do not have a wiring harness or you don't know how to wire in resistors, I want to recommend doing that. Just go ahead and get American Muscle's kit. It'll be a whole lot simpler than what I'm doing. So we are up to temperature. I am not seeing bubbles anymore. Upper radiator hose is nice and warm. We are still hanging around normal, which is surprising considering we don't have fans at the moment. But I think we are good. Only thing left to do is reinstall our radiator cap. Just to be a little extra, we went ahead and got American Muscle's polished radiator cap. Helped make everything match and look good. For their instructions, it comes with an alcohol wipe. We're just going to open this up. We're going to clean. Inside of this is just a 3M stick-on pad. We'll get that filled, stick this on. Just sticks and pushes, and there you have it, folks. We've got our American Muscle aluminum coolant overflow, American Muscle 3-row aluminum radiator. Come over here and check our temps one more time. We are still holding it normal at idle with no fans, which is very impressive. Go ahead and shut that off. And again, we'll go over tools. 10 millimeter. Sorry. Again, we'll go over tools. 10 millimeter, 8 millimeter. We use this for our push pins on the radiator shroud. flathead screwdriver to help with the radiator hoses. This was used for our push pins, the Phillips screwdriver. Channel locks for your clamps. And a pair of side cuts to cut the hose. If you're reusing your stock overflow tank, you do not need that. That's it. Simple, easy install. All in all, even going back and forth and draining the fluid or filtering the fluid out, probably an hour and a half altogether. That's it.